It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's your other deck thing's gonna be
Yeah,
all good.
all going to be great.
All good for the town.
We're going to call the meeting of the Design Review Committee for September 2022 to order at this time. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Kavanaugh,
Present.
Member Cully,
Present.
Member Deputy,
Here.
Member Dryden Hess, absent, Member Jacobson Bates.
Here.
Okay. Brian, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'd be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you have an opportunity to, was there somebody online that had something to say? Okay. Are there any changes to the order of the agenda presented for this evening?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve those, or to approve the agenda as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Oh, and we have, yeah.
Hi.
Our 5
Sorry.
minutes. No, that's good.
Tardiness.
No, I know we've got it, we've got your attendance marked, duly marked. If you had an opportunity to review the minutes of the meeting of August 18,
I just have one comment. It
Yeah.
all looks good. I think there was a Bella Vista Development, page 7, just says Bella Vista. So minor detail.
yeah, okay.
eagle eye.
Yeah, just happened. Lucky catch.
Yeah, I don't have, I mean, I have small stuff, but it's not really worth bringing up, I don't think, at this point. I think it is clear in the way it is now that we did rearrange the order of the agenda last time, so City Attorney Fleischman could review his memo, and that was included in the committee's materials there. Okay, are any other changes that anybody wants to suggest to the minutes? I'll accept the motion to approve.
Move that we approve that.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, further discussion about this item now? Make sure we do that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay. We also have the planning and building division's current projects, starting on page 8 of the materials. Are there any questions? Or perhaps I should say to our planner, is there anything you want to point out about the projects listed on that list, starting on page 8?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I have a question. Solving Senior Center, I think it was approved. Am I at the planning commission? Okay.
You're correct, it was approved.
Yeah, it just says review, but I thought it'd been approved.
Yeah, good point.
And then, I believe it's called the Cottages on Old Mission Drive, the controversial fence over there. Is there any update on that, or is that later in the meeting?
You mean, they did make a resolution with the neighbors to make some adjustments to the fence.
Oh, good.
They put some ripped wood along the seams and a piece of wood along the top, so it looks more like a fence instead of a wall. And they did do their landscape planning.
Okay, good. So the
Okay.
neighbor, yeah, I hadn't
Yeah.
heard that, so good.
And just to, Mr. Chair, just to expand on that, they are going through right now the final check for occupancy. There's still some work that they need to do, but they're getting very close to getting their final occupancy certificates to move people into those homes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that.
Yeah, nice to see you, Lori.
Yeah, and I didn't know you golfed.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, last time, I know the minute said that, I'm not sure how it was worded exactly. I don't know if we take any action. I think we just
Accept.
accepted it without any action on it. Okay.
Correct.
Guess we're doing that again. Okay? So I think that brings us to that part of the agenda where any individuals here in the room or in Zoom land may speak to items of concern in the public communication section of the agenda for items that are not on the agenda for this evening. Is there anyone that has any such comments that are here in the room? No? How about in Zoom land? Apparently not. We have some people participating, but they're here for items on the agenda, apparently. That's good. Let's keep moving ahead then. The next item is the proposed revision of ground sign, three-directional identification sign, trellis sign, and parking and handicap signs at the Hadston House at 1450 Mission Drive. Sophia, are you going to,
No.
or,
Good evening. This is-
Lori, it's okay, Lori?
Yeah, by remote. Good evening, Lori Tamura, planning consultant. We're bringing forth to you the proposed sign plans and details for the Hadston House. You may recall that about 6 months ago, the DRC did review all of the remodel and renovation of the Hadston House. At that time, it was the Hadston House, now it's the Hadston. And they did have a concept for the signs, but now they're bringing forth their final sign plan. The first sign is the ground sign, and that particular sign is in the exact same location as the current sign. They are using the base and the stand and the frame of the existing Hadston House sign, and replacing the backboard and the wording itself on the plan. I believe you have exhibits in front of you showing how that particular sign is going to be changed. I did provide a supplemental memo to the staff report that provided a little bit more detail. One of the things that didn't quite come clear with the original submittal was that the back side detail of the backing is an embossed material that mimics some of the tile work that they're doing throughout the project. It will still be the naval blue that is also been approved throughout the project, and so that it will have a little bit more depth and demarcation on the sign than just a flat blue backing. The two items that are of concern or of issue is that the actual sign itself is a bit larger than the maximum sign within a ground sign standard, and we are recommending approval of the larger element because it's using the existing frame of the previously approved sign plan. It's also a bit higher, and again, because they're using the existing structure of the sign itself, we're recommending approval of the sign. One of the elements that they will be doing with the monument sign is they will have overhead lighting similar to the lighting that was approved for the pork sign last month. They'll put 2 light elements that will be coming down from the top. And so we're recommending approval of the ground sign as it's proposed in the package of materials that have been presented to you. The other sign package is the directional signs within the project. And when we initially prepared this staff report, the directional signs were larger than what is identified in the zoning ordinance. We had a resubmitted package, I believe it was on Monday. And so I hope you have that in front of you. The members of the clerk and Mark Beckford, the sign designer, has reduced the directional signs so that they do meet the standard. And it's important that these signs are approved because they give some information about how you enter the project, where things are located, and how you exit the project site. So we are recommending approval of the altered or revised sign package that was provided on Monday. Other details are the trellis sign. That's an interior part of the project, just signage above a trellis that will be going into their new lounge and footwear area. And they also have a wall sign now that will be right at the entrance to the project. Both of those signs will not be seen from the street. They're interior. They also have ADA signs that were part of the package that was submitted. So overall, we're pleased with the changes and the effort that has gone into the sign package, and we're recommending approval for everything that's been provided as of the package submitted on Monday.
Okay,
And I'm available for any questions.
okay, I appreciate that.
Is this the same that we just received, or as far as Lori?
You should be looking at the one that was in the blue folder because that is the most updated version. And also we have the applicant here and the sign maker.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the accommodation on the directional sign to match the sign standards. I also understand that the monumental ground sign will be approximately 40 square feet, with the ground sign standard being 30 square feet, but that has been there for a long time, I gather. Was that sign approved, or do you know if it was ever approved?
But looking at the research, the Huston Hotel has been there since it was in the county of Santa Barbara. And so we don't have full records of what was approved at that time, but I'm assuming that through the county process it was approved.
Okay. Anybody have any?
So
Any
I
questions?
did have just a question to
Yeah.
the group about grandfathering, because it made me think about that. Like, so, when it's something that old and they obviously want to retain it, how do we feel about it?
It's sort of a tough thing, because I feel like it's a good opportunity to bring everything to code. It's tough sometimes going around town and realizing people who are coming in with new projects are having to adhere to sign things, and it costs a lot of money a lot of the time. And then we're allowing others to sort of stay within those older guidelines. I don't know if that's the solution necessarily either, because I can understand, like, why would you want to I'm all about like reusing things. So I would hate to see them tear this sign down and only to rebuild something slightly smaller.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about it totally, but that's
Yeah.
kind of my dilemma.
That's why I
Yeah.
wanted to.
I think there's a number, my own view, I think there's a number of factors, and that I think if it were, if there's other reasons that I would be interested in disqualifying the sign, I'd probably
Yeah, sure.
use if the sign is, you know, if there's other factors involved, I would probably then, you know, use the
The size.
size as being another disqualifying factor. But in the absence of that, you know, and with a sign that's otherwise acceptable, you know, but I think that's, each of us make that judgment right now. I don't think there's any rules.
Yeah, I definitely wondered if it was grandfathered in because of the significant difference in looking over what we're tasked with for our criteria. One of those being the proportion to and visually consistent with the architectural character of the building. And I drove by today, to the best of my ability, looked at the location, and it did not seem outsized by comparison with where it was placed.
Yeah.
If it was in a different location, I would have more reservations and really want to have more discussion about it.
I agree.
Just, oh, go ahead.
Having driven by it for years and years, I never noticed that it was like, I never said, look how huge that sign is. And it's just, it's very beautiful and understated, so, I mean, oh,
Yeah.
so sorry. So I'm inclined myself to say that this would be a case where I'd say, it's okay
Okay.
for me. But-
Well,
Yeah, so I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say before, because I didn't want to lead. But I do think that the location of it, right, is that it's set back.
Yep.
It's on a major thoroughfare. And
Yep.
if it was in a different place and there was more pedestrian traffic or something like that. And I just wanted to be clear about that because I obviously, I know what I'm going to say probably or what I've said in the past. So I just want to be, in my view too, it was like, it's a really big sign. You probably don't want to tear it out just to replace it, just to meet a code. And if it's not easy to modify, because I also looked at that, like maybe you could modify it, but it wouldn't be easy to modify it. So that's kind of where
Remind me, are sign sizes is something that's being considered with the general plan changes? And maybe that's a question for all of us, because I know we're going to have some more discussions about design guidelines changing, but do we think it's likely that does that seem like that's on the table with any discussions that have been had so far?
So the general plan update will update the community design element. It's not as detailed as the sign ordinance itself.
Sure.
But once that's approved, it will set the tone, and then the sign ordinance can be reviewed again, and
Got it.
refreshed.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I would move, what should we, I guess, do we need to
We've
make a
got-
move now, or
well,
should we?
public
Oh,
comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get,
And we've got the
a
application.
motion,
Well, there's
let's get a
other
motion
items
and,
to do
and a
there.
second, and then we'll continue the discussion, okay? I mean, good.
But I think you need public comment first.
Yeah, we have public.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll accept the comments after we get
I think we have to have it first.
the, what,
Public comment comes next.
okay. Who do we have there? Lori?
I was just saying that you do need to do public comment first before you make a motion.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We could make a motion at the end of all the items too.
Right.
If you want.
Okay. Are there any comments? Yes, please. Mr. Peterson.
Aaron Peterson solving. I have nothing to do with this sign at all. Instead of, here's my comment, instead of making an exception to a ground sign, call it a pole sign. Pole signs can be 13 feet in the air. They can be 50 square feet. You have to have 100 feet of frontage. Definitely Hadston House has over 100 feet of, to make exceptions just because when you can make it within a pole sign. Now, they might not have applied as a pole sign. They applied as a ground sign. Shame on them. It's over the 6.5 and it's bigger than the 30. Call it a pole sign and you've met all the criteria. That's my comment.
Good comment.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
From Chomp.
Lori or Sophia, are there any comments about Mr. Peterson's observation?
That is something that we didn't look at again, primarily because of the application as it was presented. But Mr. Peterson is correct. It can qualify as a pole sign. And I think the only question is that we didn't notice it as a pole sign. So, I think we would probably, it's up to the committee as to how they would like to work with these provisions as we noticed and
Right.
as we advertised in the agenda and in our staff report. And so,
Okay. Any,
So I'm going to ask a clarifying question, though. What would, I guess, technically be the difference then than the ground sign versus the pole sign? I thought a pole sign was maybe like on a single pole? No?
So the-
I mean, do we get into the technicality of like someone submitting then under pole sign in the future to try to get to bigger? I mean, I'm just asking
Yeah.
from that perspective.
The definition for pole sign in the code says a sign erected on one or more uprights supported from the ground.
Okay.
So it sort of sounds like they're kind of one and the same, effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that we should look into when the.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Sign
that's,
is being
I think
revised.
that's it. That's good.
But I do appreciate the exception argument, because that was what I
Yeah.
was grappling with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think it's been noticed and applied under the ground sign standard. And there is another way, if we renoticed it, for the sign to be, fall under the provisions of the pole sign. We can do anything you like, I guess, but I'd suggest we go ahead and approve it on the basis of the application before us.
I'm concerned that if we change it and approve a pole sign, that we are violating, a notice that's required for public notice.
I think, renotice it. So-
Yeah, it would
So in
have to
other words,
wait.
Yeah.
suggestion is that we approve it as presented,
You're right.
basically, with the exception that it's a little bit bigger than.
Yeah, because the alternatives is you'd have to reject it and send them back to a
Right.
new application, which would be lousy.
Is that a motion?
No.
Can I make a motion?
Please do.
I move that we approve this sign as presented.
And are you speaking of that specific sign or all the signs
Oh.
within this?
Oh, I don't know if we're doing them all or one at a time.
it was presented as a package, so you could approve it all as one package, based on the memo that was provided to you as part of, in the blue file.
Then I move that we approve the entire project as presented.
Second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further comment?
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of,
Yep.
I'm looking at the aluminum panels, which aren't going to look like aluminum when they're done. Am I understanding that correctly? They're printed on 1-inch thick aluminum, and then they're printed on top of that for the signs for like the fitness center, for instance, and the do not enter. Maybe the applicant can just help me make sure I'm understanding.
Are you talking about the background?
Yes, well, it says that these are all printed on, it's a 1-inch thick aluminum panel, face and returns, painted solid base coat faux wood grain, then thick aluminum panels. So I'm presuming that that's the base material, but
Right,
it
the-
doesn't have that look to it at all when
Correct.
it's all finished.
Everything will be painted. The background, which is the Sherwin-Williams navy blue, will also include the tile design.
Oh, it does, on
Yep.
the fitness center, et cetera?
Right, all of the signs. It actually
Oh.
came from this meeting.
Yeah.
I think it was actually June of '21. The tiles that we're using on the steps, that design we're using on all of the backgrounds of all the signs.
Nice.
Super cool, really pretty, and that brings the theme all the way through. So on the monument sign, certainly you can see the design there, and then all of the lettering will be painted as well.
Okay, and that doesn't transfer to paper very well in our print
Yeah.
packets, so that's
You
good
can
to
see it
know.
a little bit on the,
On the main.
Yeah,
on
on the big one.
Okay, great. That's good clarification. Do you have anything more you'd like to add?
No, just super excited to have this approved, thank you, and we're well on our way.
Okay, great.
So we'll see you
Thank you so
in
much.
Good.
January.
I appreciate that the scale was modified to meet guidelines for the other smaller signs, because that was a concern and is no longer.
To the 2 square feet, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the package as presented, as amended, I guess, perhaps. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
I just wanted to clarify, you said as amended, just,
Well-
can we back up just a second?
It's different than the materials that were,
As,
what's
in
it's in our book has been changed a little bit with the materials that gave us at the beginning of the
Okay.
meeting. So that's what I mean.
okay.
Yeah.
I was
Give me
very
one more.
slowly voting because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
My vote stays at aye, which is with the comment that the reservations with the scale and the
Mm-hmm.
grandfather. so.
Now I have a question. I'm sorry, guys.
Very odd procedure today for
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
us.
Let's just see if we can take it all over the place. The tiles on the back, because they're not super clear in the image, I mean, I'm assuming they're really subtle, right? I mean, I kind of remember the tiles that we were looking at originally, but I don't totally remember. So they're all a dark blue color with a lighter variation of design, is that right? Or,
On the signs,
yeah, okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay.
I'm going to approve it, but I also am very hesitant, given the grandfather discussion. It's giving me pause.
Okay, fair enough. But you did vote
I did
affirmative,
approve it,
okay?
yeah.
But that's good with noting your,
Should we go around one more time with the motion?
Yeah, we should.
Brian,
okay.
you want to make the motion?
I move that we approve this sign package as presented
Today.
today. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay.
okay, been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
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 5-0. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to seeing those tiles.
Now we have Mr. Peterson, proposal regarding signage for Mortenson's Danish Bakery at 1588 Mission Drive.
I'm going to recuse from this one.
So I'm going to go ahead and make the presentation for staff. Again, Lori Tamar, planning consultant. What's being brought before you is a monument, a ground sign for Morton Danish Bakery. We have reviewed the provisions of the ordinance for a ground sign, and this particular design meets all of the requirements. We have, one of the questions we asked of the applicant was, would there be any lighting involved in this sign? And the comment was that there would not, because the business is not open at night. This will be seen from the frontage along Mission Drive. And so based on the work that the applicant has done and the sign company, we're recommending approval of this sign plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Brian, 805 Signs 2. I'm here to help with anything, and
Okay,
Aaron
great.
as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Just one question on the poles. What's the material on those, and is that new or is that existing?
Treated lumber, new,
Okay,
painted,
okay. Thank you.
and I have proper colors this time if you want to see the paint swatches too.
Okay, any other questions?
Question on the proposed planter materials, although I don't believe that's necessarily part of this package.
So what we did with the sign, just to expand on that. When we talked with Brian in regards to the height of the sign, it meets the height requirement, and any planter that is built around the sign will augment what is part of the installation of the sign. So they're looking at doing some kind of a flower planter area in the future, but the first request was to do the sign itself.
So is that your way of saying the planter is not part of the package today? Is that correct?
It was an illustration of what could be, yes.
But it won't change the height of the sign. In other words, once
And
it's
I
there,
can
the
put-
sign doesn't lift up. The sign is, the height is the height.
From the ground?
Yeah, from the grade, yeah, from
Okay,
grade.
okay.
I was definitely wanting to make sure that they weren't trying to cheat another foot or two in height to, on this, but the actual sign, stanzas themselves will meet the, 6.5 foot height requirement.
Okay, thank you, Lori.
Yeah, underground sign on page 1 of 3, it has to grade. So it's not from the planter, it's to the grade. And those are going to be like a tumbled cinder block type look, the tumbled kind. Pretty low lying.
Very good.
I'm sorry, what was going to be the tumbled?
The planter,
Oh, okay. So we are talking about that. Okay. I guess my question was, I thought there were bricks on the building, but I can't remember.
surrounding areas in the parking lot has brick. Right now, there's just the artificial turf is in that spot.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there now.
I guess my thought was that the planter would look nice. My suggestion, because I don't think it's within our scope, would be that maybe consider brick to augment the existing brick.
I think that's a good suggestion, to tell you the truth. I mean, so it ties into the sidewalk there is bricks, right? And then, yeah, because I can't see the building, I can't
Yeah.
remember, but,
Well, and our thought, Aaron Peterson, owner, was that instead of going with the public sidewalk bricks, we have exposed aggregate throughout the entire area. We wanted it to match more of the exposed aggregate walkways that's 15 feet by, well, it goes throughout the entire square into the Lansby and all the way in between Peasants Feast, Mortensen's Bakery, the whole thing. So rather than doing the brick, which is the fire red brick, we could go with used brick, but we thought, well, shoot, why don't we go? And we have a lot of planters that are also the exposed aggregate in the square and other places. So we were trying to keep it consistent that way. The other thought, and this just came up really in the last few days, Brian worked it up for us, is that because I know people have concerns about the height of a 6'6" sign. We found this in my mom's garage, which my father had gotten a long time ago in Denmark. He got like 3 of these. And so I was talking to my sisters and saying, maybe what we should do instead of a 6'6" sign, let's take it down to 5 feet, put this on top. So we have that. Brian massively today worked that up as if you, and we only made 1 of them, but we thought that would be kind of cool to have this out there. So take that from 6'6", take it down the 18 inches to 5, much like we did with Chomp, which is a good height. Doing the planter, bringing it up so that it takes some of that high off, but the 5 taking it down will take the poles down. And this on top, Brian, I looked at it, how we can attach it to the top of that sign. I think it'd be, I mean, it's a bakery crinkle is what it is, and it'd be really cool. And we're not sentimental, but mom and dad's passed, but mom would, she's like, that's golden, let's do this. So I said, well, I'm gonna try tonight to see if we can reduce the height, but add this back on top.
no longer correct.
So that is not 6'6". It would go down to, I'm happy to go to 5 feet and add this on it. We cut it out with cardboard this morning and went to 5, put this on top and said, we're still at 6'6", and that's perfect. But it takes the whole mass
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
So that's our thought today.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so with that element, it's still the same I,
written in there,
it just-
60.
If we drop it down to the 5 foot.
So
Yeah.
what you're doing is shortening the poles,
Correct.
very cool old
It's pretty
element.
cool. I know. We luckily found that, seriously, about 3 days ago, and I said, Mom, I'm taking that. That's what we're going to do on the sign.
Yeah.
And I said, Brian, you got to write this up. Draw it up real quick. He said at 6'6". I think he did at 6'6" because he didn't reduce it down to the 5. But I'm happy to do it down to the 5. I think it looks, in fact, it'd be at 8 feet in the air. It'd be
Yeah.
silliness,
Yeah.
you know.
I think that's fantastic.
Because my concern was
I do
at the
too.
overall height.
The
of
height, I
that
know. We stood there and
location.
looked and
Yeah.
looked and looked.
We had that discussion before.
Yeah,
Right.
you know,
That's why I was late. I walked, I was over there.
well, and, you know, going with the proportion to and visually consistent
Yes.
with the architectural character of the building, you know, that's, I have highlighted here, that was my concern, but I think you just
Yes, I'll-
addressed that with the lowering of the sign and the embellishment that is so in
So,
fitting
yeah.
with Solvang, and the sign is already a good example of that. So
And the sign is carved.
Right.
It's 2-inch thick, carved both sides. You know, it's not a painted. It's
Yeah. Right.
it's a really expensive Brian
Yeah.
805 sign. 'Cause that's what she wanted. Anyway.
And since this wasn't presented in this form and to the public in the packet, are we allowed to move forward with this modification without notice? I guess that's my only concern.
From a staff's perspective, this is definitely something that can be supported at this meeting because it is reducing the magnitude of the sign, but lowering it with the augmentation that they're proposing. So we are surprised at this proposal, but very supportive of what is being brought forward.
Wonderful.
Well, can I propose a motion to approve as resubmitted with a 5-foot sign plus the decorative embellishment on top, bringing the total sign to 78 inches?
I would
Good.
second.
Very good.
That's a kringle embellishment on top.
And a crown.
And crown.
Oh, kringle
It's
and-
been moved and
kringle
seconded.
crown, yes.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the revision to the proposal.
Have you taken public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any other public comment online or elsewhere? Thank you. No, there's no other comments now. We appreciate Lori's establishing a record from the planners. And we do have a motion and a second.
Discussion, I just wanted to.
Any more? Yeah,
Yeah,
please,
if-
go ahead.
Discussion. In the little drawing that you just gave us with the kringle on it, I saw that the bricks are painted, the brick planter or the block planter or whatever. It's a dark color.
This one.
It's a last minute change. I don't remember what we did. Does that one have,
Okay. I
have
was
brick?
just-
No.
That one.
Yep, it has the same.
So the planter is, I think it looks better. So I was just wondering if that's what you.
Maybe that's just a different print. Which one? I think it's just the way the print came out.
Oh, is it? Okay, that looked brown. This looks
Yeah.
gray concrete.
Yeah, because
Good old digital.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what,
That's what that is.
yeah, that's what this is. Okay. Did I look at it wrong?
Yeah, that has, that looks like the
Yes.
planter brick is brown or dark.
So that's just a printer?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's going to be the same like Aaron said, that aggregate color.
Yeah.
And that's why we always ask for the paint swatches, the actual.
Yeah, so that one has paint swatches. I can submit that as a final, but we'd have to take the height down for that copy, or I can submit a new digital. Either way, I can send to Sophia. With
Yeah,
that
we would
correction.
appreciate that. Yes, we would appreciate the final version to be provided to staff. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll email that in. Easy.
Okay. That doesn't prevent us from proceeding, though, with the vote. So we do have a motion and a second to approve the modified presentation that uses the embellishment, Kringle embellishment.
Brown.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
4 with 1 recusal, or 1.
4-0, one recusal.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Very nice modification,
Very,
I might
very
add.
nice. We're
Nice.
excited to see the outcome.
Great. Okay, the next item on the agenda relates to the Viking Inn at 1506 Mission Drive.
I think,
I have, yeah.
oh, so we each have one of these. Okay.
And Sophia, are you presenting this one?
Yes, sir.
Is it, each of us get this, is that it?
Oh, look at that.
So each of us have this? Okay.
This item is for changes to the existing ground sign. It's for proposed exterior lighting and then also exterior paint for the Viking Inn, which is located at 1506 Mission Drive. So for the ground sign, they are proposing to utilize the existing frame, painting it a dark charcoal color. Y'all have the paint chips in front of you. And then they're wanting to replace the insert to reflect the new name. So it's currently the Viking Motel. It will be the Viking Inn, and including the cool Viking helmet logo as well. They'll be keeping the existing illumination, and that, along with the frame, will be painted the new color. And I looked in the historical records. There was a clearance for the setback of the sign because it's at the corner of Mission and 5th Street. So they did receive, at the time, approval for the sign to be located where it is. And it meets all of the requirements of the code.
Okay.
The next item is exterior lighting. So they are proposing to change the exterior wall lights for each of the guest rooms. The cool thing about the lights they're proposing is it does have the certificate of approval from the International Dark Skies Association. So in addition to that, it meets the requirements in our code for not having light that goes above the horizontal and for being fully shielded. And then the last item is they will be repainting the entire property. You have the paint chips, and in the staff report, we've outlined each of the elements that will be painted and what colors they will be. And we are recommending approval. The applicant is here if you have any questions.
Okay. Would the applicant like to step forward and identify herself? And
Yeah, I'm Angie Horn, and I am the new owner of the Viking
oh, wonderful.
Was Motel, now Inn.
Okay, great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah.
It's quite a project.
Terrific.
It's good to see it getting some TLC.
Yeah, it's an awesome location,
It is.
awesome property.
Yeah.
Love the history. We're very excited.
And I note that it's been full. Have you been?
We've been very full.
Yeah.
They like the new mattresses.
They do. Thanks for following along, Joy.
Okay, great.
I,
Yep.
I wouldn't mind just a verbal explanation of how you're going to use the colors.
Sure.
If that's all right. I mean, I know we have it in, but
Sure.
so everyone else can.
So I don't know the numbers by memory, but I do know the shades by memory. So the very darkest, which looks almost black, but it's a dark gray, is really going to be used for the fence. There's a very big fence that separates the property from Big Bopper, and then also on 5th Street, the fence line is the back. And I want to go with the darkest color because I want the fence to not be a point of interest, but more of a framing for the property.
Sure.
That darkest color is also going to be used to frame the windows and doors just for the front cottage, the house that was built in 1920. We want to treat that a little bit separately because of the historical significance. And then on the motel property, that darkest color is just going to be accent. Trim along the roof line and the really small trim of windows and doors so that it fits really well with the front cottage. But we did want the historical piece to have its own treatment. And then the really light shade of gray is going to be the body of everything, the front cottage and the whole motel. And the medium gray will be the Danish accents, and only the motel has Danish accents. So the cottage is its own structure with different siding. So the cottage will have only the light gray that will match the motel, and the Danish accent on the motel will be that medium gray. And then the doors of the motel will be the red, and that's just for Danish fun. But the doors on the cottage will be the darkest gray. We're going to keep that one. Like I said, we want to sort of outline the historical significance. So it's going to look really clean from the front because really you're not going to see any red unless you were to turn right on 5th Street. Then all of the motel doors would be red.
And when you say the Danish accent, you mean the kind of the half timber?
Yes, yeah, all the fun Danish architecture. That will be that medium gray.
Okay, so the body is this, and then the little.
Trim, the Danish trim is, yes,
Okay.
yes, that's right.
Okay, great. Any other questions for the applicant?
The only other thing, sorry, that I would note is, it's in the packet, but there's those pole lights by the parking that have been there for a very long time. It is in there that we do want to paint the poles that darkest gray color as well. Fun fact, we found some really old vintage pictures, and those lights used to have black poles, and they look a lot sharper and a lot more cool. So we want those to align with the accent color for the property. So that's also in there.
Okay, great. I think we have a representative of We Watch with her hand up on Zoom.
Yes, please. I'm Susan Bott, and I'm representing the Save Our Stars Committee of We Watch regarding exterior lighting for the Viking Inn. And we're pleased to see that the proposed wall fixtures are fully shielded and dark sky compliant, really attractive. Of some concern are the unshielded white globes with the poles embedded in the hedge that borders the parking lot. Since the light posts are being painted black as part of the application, wouldn't the fixtures themselves be considered part of that application? We hope they could be replaced by fully shielded lamps such as these. And I turned in a flyer and handout earlier.
Okay.
So I hope that these might be the
That's right.
replacements for the white globes, because the globes are completely unshielded. The light goes everywhere. So we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We always appreciate your good work in reviewing these and passing that information on. And the applicant has this suggestion?
Yes, I did read it, yeah.
Okay, good. And that's not part of the presentation today, but it is something for you to keep in mind as you complete the project.
Sure.
Are there any other comments, questions regarding the application?
I just wanted to get a little bit more clarity on the, as you're calling it, the cottage, the house there. Okay, because our list of colors, I got a little confused there. So is the cottage, I'm looking at this image, so these walls are the cottage, and you're talking about that being the dark, the black bay color?
No, so actually the paved brick walkway that walks up to a door, that is the original house that was built in 1920. So that is what I'm referencing. So that front, it looks like French doors. Yes, that's correct. That front piece,
That.
it's actually separate from the part on the left that you're seeing.
Okay.
That's part of the motel. It's a very interesting property. It's actually like 4 individual pieces that were brought together.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, and neither did I.
Okay.
So the black bay, that darkest color, that would be framing our sign, would be framing the doors, the French doors that the brick pathway leads up to, and the windows on that front house.
But the body of it is still.
The body is the same light gray as the whole motel.
Okay, that was the part that I wasn't clear on.
Yes, so the whole body of the entire property is all the same color.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that your palette of the light gray, kind of dark gray, and the charcoal will lend a sophistication to that site that hasn't been the case for a long time. I like the idea of a contrasting door. I'm a little concerned about the intensity of the red in contrast. I was kind of hoping that, coincidentally, I think it's about It's about Elverhoy red, I think. So I was kind of inclined to suggest that perhaps something that was a little bit more, organic in the red color. I don't know if that's the right description. Maybe not as striking red as this one. But my colleagues might have other thoughts on that.
My thinking is that it's under the awning, and like I drive by that building a lot, and I guess, of course, the way the doors are now, they don't really stand out, and certainly they will more with the red, but I'd be less concerned just because it looks like they're kind of under the shade of the awning, and therefore will probably look darker than this looks under, our funny lights here that we have, but we could, I guess, try seeing what they look like under different light. Is this a Dunn Edwards, or, I feel like I've used this color paint before, and I think it actually, if I remember right, it came out looking pretty nice. Like, I don't remember it being,
It's hard to believe, but it's the least cherry of all of their reds.
Right.
So I did a lot of red work. I also own the Atterdag in here with bright red doors. And this is a more faded red than what we currently have at the Atterdag Inn. It may not look like it right now when you're comparing it to all grays, but it is actually the least cherry because I kind of wanted to go for a dark muted red. That may not look that way right now because you don't have other reds to compare, but it is not a cherry red.
I don't know if you guys can see this red here.
Yeah.
But, so, kind of what you're talking about.
That's a
is
cherry red.
That's sort of or actually better yet,
Yeah, there you go.
if you look at it compared to.
Yeah, it's more muted,
more
yeah.
muted, Yeah, I don't know what,
That's also a shiny finish, which
yeah,
impacts
which is,
both, yeah.
for sure.
I didn't have any issues with the red at all. I think it's actually, I've had a red door though on my house, so
Yeah, I
Same.
like the colored
probably
doors.
not
I
the
do too.
person that, but I like that pop-up color. I think it makes it's something surprising and nice, and it will make it look very, refreshed. I guess for me though, the Black Bay is the one that is kind of, I'm pausing only because I'm worried about the expanse of the darkness on the fence, and I wonder if that's going to read as just a very dark, somber kind of experience on the fence line. And I totally understand what you're saying about you don't want to create a visual, like another detail.
Right.
But I'm also concerned that actually that color might create more concern or consternation or just the kinds of conversations that we've had about very dark colors being on trend, but they don't wear so well in the sun. And there's a whole lot of feelings about them. So that was for me the one that I would agree to a dark tone, but when it gets into these really dark, saturated, almost blacks, I kind of bristle a little bit.
I almost feel as though you would be drawing attention, like it's kind of like, a black line that you're pointing there. And my concern was, I mirror what Jennifer's saying. I would suggest you're more medium gray, for lack of a better term, as being something that would kind of blend into the background more than the black, which would stand out very much. And there's a lot of fence. I went by to look at it between the fence, between the motel or inn rather, and the Big Bopper, and then all the way around the corner onto, I guess that's Copenhagen, 5th to Copenhagen.
It's Copenhagen, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fence. And I would think that it would blend in better being the color of the body of the building, especially around 5th Street to Copenhagen. It would kind of just disappear there.
I did originally have it that color actually, but I changed my mind because I drove through town and looked at different properties. And you may not know, but like Vinland, their darkest color is the color of the fence. It makes it so that the fence is almost so when I originally thought I would use the medium gray, I felt like that would be so much medium gray. And that if you drove by Copenhagen, you'd be like, oh, look at that gray fence. Where if we had a really clean, dark fence against an entirely gray building, the fence would be more of a design element. I'm looking for it really to sort of float back. Most of the guest rooms, all they see is fence if they look out their back window. And from my perspective, a dark color is much easier to constantly repaint, constantly keep looking good as far as paint chipping. You know, we do all of our rooms white so that it's really easy to clean up. And I feel the same about the fence is we're going to be constantly wanting to clean that thing up to make it look sharp. So that was my thinking. I hear what you're saying. I did have it medium gray originally, and then I thought this might just look like one big gray thing. And I want a lot of dimension. I guess that's what I'm saying is I want it to feel dimensional. We're going to even do this really small trim around doors because I want it to feel like a lot of color and a lot of dimension. So that is why I changed that. But I hear you. I have been back and forth myself.
I'm not sure I like the idea of the same color on the fence as the whole building, just because I'm thinking about, again, drive by there almost every day when I'm going home or whatever. It feels like that whole corner would just then be this sort of gray, like, block thing. I'm not necessarily saying I disagree about the fence, what you said about the fence color, but I'm not sure that, in my mind, the solution is to go with the same color as the building, even if it was something like a little bit the darker.
Yeah, I was thinking of the darker as opposed to the light, the medium, excuse me, as opposed to the light.
The bank vault, we're.
Yes, bank vault, like the name.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, that's okay.
No.
What you were just describing is this was the one that you originally were thinking of?
I was thinking of
Was this one?
No, not the medium, the bank
This
vault.
one. Okay,
Oh,
so
sorry,
that's
I
more
misunderstood that. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes. I wouldn't even consider paying it all like gray.
I know, that sounded like a lot.
They all blend
Yeah, sorry,
together.
I misunderstood.
No, that's fine. That's right.
But I was gonna say that I wouldn't paint it bank vault. I agree that bank vault is too of much of that blah, like,
Yes.
yeah, it just doesn't have it. I get it. But so I'm just, which I hate doing this, but is it a couple tones down from this? Did you look at the family, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I spent a lot of time in the store. Yeah. Well, my other thought too and I hear you all about dark. I am trying to take a property that is historical in a cool way and then needs a lot of help and make it feel instantly modernized. And to me, a really dark accent does that. I want it to be playful. That's why there's red doors. I want it to feel Danish. I'm Danish. I want to play with the property. I love the logo. It's that little Viking hat with the Danish flag in the middle. We want to make it feel playful. It is a motel. It's always going to be a motel. But I think the dark color, from my perspective, elevates it modernizes something that is really not very modern. But we are going to go for a Danish modern vibe and aesthetic there. And I think for the exterior, it helps with that.
Is this the daylight on?
Let's see.
So if I can just say one thing in regards to the perimeter fencing, and this might be a clarification.
Yes.
I'm on Google Earth right now, and along Mission Drive, along the property line, there's a small wall, and then there is a frame of glass between this hotel or motel and Big Bopper. And so the fencing along that particular side is just really only about 3.5 feet. That's what's going to be changed from beige to a darker frame or color. And then the only time you see that fence otherwise would be along Copenhagen Drive.
That's correct. You really only see it on Copenhagen.
Yeah, fifth to Copenhagen around the corner
Yeah,
there.
around
And
the
it's
corner.
kind of the part of Copenhagen that doesn't get as much traffic as certainly not as much as going by
Right.
Mission or, the upper areas of Copenhagen.
Right. So it's not as big of a element as the hotel itself.
I think the part where it's most there's the most fence is that Fifth to Copenhagen. I'd be interested in seeing the Big Bopper side, because we don't see much, but I know it has that kind of glass in there, which does have the dark kind of panes in the glass
That's
wall there.
theirs, yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't that open to your property?
It does, but we
glass.
did not include that in our planning as far as painting
Right,
the fence. That's-
right, but I'm thinking of complementing it, and I wonder if there's a way where that short fence over there may be your darker color, because it kind of goes along with what's at the neighboring property, which is part of our task, and then the fencing that goes around the corner, at the, from Copenhagen, or Fifth to Copenhagen might be some different element. Does that make sense? Like, we don't have very good photographs to look at. Is there a way we can pop that image up on the screen?
Maybe while they're doing that, Esther, I don't know if you had a look at this under the daylight. Thanks for the little lights, by the way, guys. As Jen pointed out, it's almost got sort of a little bit of a brown thing going on, which, is, in my mind, takes away some of the black characteristics of it that feel like they could be so overbearing, when you get it out in the sunlight. It actually looks more tame to me
brown.
than the initial.
It's definitely a warm
Yeah.
tone.
I wanted to commend you on the fact that you've got multiple colors going on in your palette. You've got the three shades of the gray and the red. That's a nice element, because we don't see, we like seeing that, I think, as a group. and
Thanks for
it-
not having it be white and black.
Yeah, and it's a more sophisticated appearance when you're done having those multiple choices.
Yeah, we've got a fence all the way around our property, and it was ugly wood, and then we painted it a very, very similar gray. And it kind of goes away. It's like, oddly enough, you don't notice it so much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's bold, and so, I get the
The
comment.
thing that I'm coming back around to is the height of it. If it's only 3.5 feet, is it 3 feet around most of it, the property?
No.
Or it
it's
gets
the-
higher?
No,
It's
there's
the,
3.5 feet that you can see
Oh,
on Mission. Did I understand that right?
Correct. From between the wall that's along the property line between this hotel and Big Bopper, the actual wall is about 3 feet high, and then there's that framed glass windbreak for their seating area.
Oh, yeah.
Then that's clear.
Yeah.
But the actual wall is a beige color that faces into the Viking Inn Hotel.
right, but on the Copenhagen side, how high is the fence? It is 6 feet?
Yeah, it's a 6 foot, I think.
I'm trying to bring up Google
Oh,
Earth right now.
okay.
I wish I had paid more attention when I went over there to look. I
The-
was so focused on the buildings that I didn't.
Yeah, I did look, because I wasn't quite clear where the fence was, and I did not have time to get out of my car. I went and circled around.
Is that it there?
That is some of the fence
Oh,
there, but is
okay,
that
good.
only, that looks like it's more than 3 feet, but it's not 6 feet, because it's way shorter than the door, it looks like. We're looking at this over here in the
Oh, yeah.
corner. That's the only fence we have in an image.
Yeah.
Was that?
What was that?
We're not paying that, sorry, my name's Matt Eaton, I'm
Hey,
Angie's
Matt.
husband and partner in this project, but we're not painting that, that's actually not, that's the Big Boppers.
Yeah.
property.
Oh, that's the big Bopper
Yeah,
fence.
there's no
Okay.
plans to include that in the painting.
So you wouldn't see any painted fence except for the back. The
this-
fence runs
this-
along the guest rooms, yeah.
Right
Yeah.
here where she's-
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the only fence you're talking about is the fence at Fifth and Copenhagen?
Correct.
Oh.
Okay, that's really helpful.
That is helpful.
And that doesn't even look like it's.
Mission
Yeah,
Drive
we
belongs to
didn't-
Big
You know-
Bopper, so that's
Yeah.
not,
We did not understand
Okay.
clearly.
Okay.
Well, I'm impressed that your explanation of your intentionality of selecting the colors.
Can we put that
is-
fence back up
is,
on the screen?
persuades me that, I mean, I think it's obviously not random, it's not, you expressed, I think, very well what was behind your intentions when you selected these to present to the committee. And that's
Sam, one of the
My
things that
observation,
should be noted on this illustration that's being shown here, this whole section has been changed based on the brickwork that has been done by the city. And so, it's just again, refreshing this whole area
Right.
on the city frontage.
Yeah, they redid.
It's not a current image, because it's got the nice brick
Correct.
sidewalks and the handicapped, okay.
Yes. I just want to make sure you have that in your mind, that this particular illustration does not reflect all of the work that's been done over the last year by Public Works and in collaboration with the previous owner of this hotel.
That's a good clarification.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us.
Okay?
Well, I would make a motion to,
Public comment?
oh, sorry.
Are there any other public comment? No, I think that Susan, I know you've already commented on it and appreciate that. And I think no one else in the room or on Zoom land has any other comments.
Okay.
Back to the,
I would just make a
Committee?
motion to accept the application as presented.
And I'll second that.
okay? It has been moved and seconded.
I do have a question.
Okay,
In
please.
regards to the lights, the globe lights in the front. And yes, they would look better on black poles. Are you considering the We Watch recommendation to make those dark sky friendly lights?
We have looked at a variety of lights, so I do think eventually we are going to do that. My current perspective is we have so much to do that it's not in part of this presentation because we're not there yet. I had just really gotten into the idea of the vintage light poles because I saw this old photo from 1973 and I thought that's darling. But I appreciate that. I'm very interested in being dark sky friendly. All of the other properties are, and that's why the ones we're putting in are. So yeah, very open to it.
I'd really like to encourage that. And on a note, we have a historic Copenhagen streetlight pole at the museum, Elverhoy Museum, and I just had it retrofitted to be dark sky compliant with LED
cool.
lights.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
which was not very expensive, by the way. I was very pleased with how it turned out.
Yeah.
So you have to come check it out.
Yeah, I will.
But I would really like to encourage that, and I actually think that when you're all done with your project, with the aesthetic that you want there,
Yeah.
that the lights as suggested by the We Watch group could have a very
Yeah.
attractive aesthetic there
Yeah.
for your property as well.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
Yep.
Any other comments at this time?
I guess if we're talking about lighting, I'll just make a comment. Not that I don't like the We Watch, recommendations, but, and I know that it's a very difficult thing to try to get light to go downward and to have it look nice. I don't particularly care for these fixtures necessarily in this setting, just because I feel like this looks sort of like kind of what everybody's doing right now, right? And I think part of the reason why you like these lights is because they're sort of charming, because they are sort of retro, and so, I mean,
They've got an attitude.
right, yeah, and who knows what you can find, but I would think finding something that could somehow embrace that, and also be dark sky compliant, which I'm sure is what you're trying to do anyway, so.
Well, and that's why I mentioned the ability to retrofit.
Yeah, right.
Because we use the exact same lamp and then just have the new kind of insides to it, and it all is compliant and illuminates beautifully.
Yeah,
Okay.
it reminds me of my first time in Solvang.
Okay. Absent, yeah, go ahead.
The motion was to accept the application as presented.
Yeah, and that's
And I second.
it's
I
been
think that's
seconded?
good. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and move to the vote, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Congratulations. We'll be looking forward to watching your progress.
Yeah. It's already fun. Yeah.
And if you want the name of the lighting outfit, he lives here in Solvang, his business is down in Santa Barbara, they're great. So, yeah. Yeah, it's out in the backyard. Actually, I had all the fixtures are being retrofitted. That's the one in the backyard by the cottage. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, good. Thank you all for that. That's an interesting proposal, and good to see new business owner come in and have a vision that is going to help advance our mission. Development plan reviews. There's nothing on that. Any other miscellaneous items? I know we're going to have city staff comments here before long, and we're going to talk about general plan meetings perhaps and the like. Any other miscellaneous items? Committee member comments. Xenia, I know I guess I defer to you because you are talking about some sort of meeting of the group, special meeting, focused exclusively, I will say, I guess, on the design element of the general plan.
Correct.
And as I understand it, the time that you have best suited for that is that the 11th now?
So I wanted to reach out to all of you, given everybody's hectic schedules and the short timeline. I think it would be best to change our strategy a little bit instead of trying to get everybody in this short time in. So my thoughts are, instead of trying to schedule a meeting in October to accommodate your work schedules, vacations, etc., we'll instead schedule it after the public comment review. So we'll take the GPAC comments, put together the draft, have it available for the public to review, and then after that review takes place, before we take all of the elements to the Planning Commission and the City Council, we'll just have the DRC review specifically the community design element. So that will give us enough time to digest and really dive into it, and still will give you the opportunity to have that special review.
And do you have a projected time?
So
like
the projected
January
time
or-
for that would be beginning of December or late November.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have policies that were with the community development element? I believe there were policies, or is that coming later?
So the GPAC will have another meeting next week,
Tuesday, yeah.
So you would finish reviewing the community design element and also look at draft code sections for the architectural elements. And those are going to be distributed to the GPAC members.
Okay.
But we're supposed to have those for Tuesday night?
Correct.
Comments?
You don't have to have those comments completed on Tuesday night. Those were just informational only for you, so that you know that that's forthcoming, so you would not be expected to go through them. It's really just informational for the GPAC, so that the GPAC knows that some of the detail that came out of the community design element is actually planned to exist somewhere else in the code, which will be addressed subsequent to the general plan update.
What's your advice for us as individual members of this committee to prepare for that meeting that we have? I mean, is there materials we should have or prepare our own thoughts in key areas or something?
Right, so we'll set a date for December or late November well ahead of time, and the general plan update, the entire update will be available to public for over a month period of time. So the public and yourselves will have plenty of time to review that. And then when you see or when you meet to actually go through the element, you will have also the benefit of public comment that was received. And for you as the design review committee, of course, your preparation is just thinking about the standards that you would like to see for the city, for the architecture, and the shape of our physical assets here in the city. So it will be similar to your usual role, just reviewing those policies in that light.
We'll each have the benefit of reviewing those in advance, but is the expectation that as a result of our meeting, there is that we take some sort of action as a committee to advance Or is it just getting feedback from us individually?
I would like you to take an action, yes. So you would review in detail, make any tweaks if you would like to make any tweaks.
Okay.
Take a motion that you
And so there will
support.
be a motion, say, this is the version that's been approved by the committee.
Correct. And that would be the recommendation to the planning commission, and the planning commission will be a recommendation to the city council, who will be the official body to approve the general plan.
Great.
So right now, GPAC is set to do our review
Right.
and input on Tuesday, and then it kind of goes through all those steps.
Right, okay, good. I appreciate again, Jennifer, yours and Esther's work. It is
a lot.
not, it is absolutely
We're
not
in
trivial
there.
at all. It's
Oh,
not
my
trivial, it's
goodness.
We're in the
significant.
trenches.
And I'm getting great feedback from others in city government that are, that you have represented the committee very well.
We clearly nominated the right character.
We absolutely did.
Characters, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely
That's
did.
the
nice.
two people who had no idea what they were getting into.
Yeah,
The
I
rest of
real-
us
I
might have had
wanted
that
to
part
do it,
figured
but
out.
I wasn't
You
selected,
think
so.
this takes a long time? The GPAC takes
Yeah.
longer.
But think
Okay.
of the long-term impact that you're having on the city. which is-
Well, that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Now, I see Lori is not on now, so Sophia, you can perhaps help, and Xenia, of course. Will we have a regular meeting in October?
We are not planning to have a regular meeting in October.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, it's, we'll work.
There's no action items that are submitted
Yeah,
at
that
this
was my
point.
sense, and, if we need to, somehow that can happen. I'm not, if the regular date is October 20th, I'm
Yeah.
indisposed. Yeah.
There's two members that are not available for that meeting, and there is nothing urgent that needs to be brought forward.
Okay.
So November would be the next
So I
DRC meeting.
officially can take it out of my calendar?
If everybody's in agreement with that, yes.
Yeah.
I'll agree to that.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
I think you should all meet because I can't. No.
Yeah, that's right.
With the two of you gone, who's going to chair? That would be my concern.
You?
Not me, that's for sure.
Okay, so there is no, okay,
Yeah.
is there anything else then for any?
I have a
committee
comment.
member? Yeah, please.
Just a correction to something I said in the last meeting when we were discussing the U.S. Bank signs. I was convinced that the sign on the front of the building was a neon sign, or was a lit sign.
Oh.
But I don't think that it is. I went by there and looked at it. So I'm not saying it was, for whatever reason, I just had that in my head, and I made a comment, and I think you guys sort of accepted that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to correct myself in saying that. It doesn't change how I feel about the signs or what I said about the signs, but I don't think they're actually like lit signs from
Okay.
inside the lettering.
They may be lit, but from.
Right, in other words, they're not.
exterior lighting, yes.
Neon isn't the right word, but they're not.
Backlit,
They're not
yeah.
backlit, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. City staff comments, city,
You know what, I'm
anything
sorry, I
else?
have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just remembered it, just a
Please,
question. I noticed, and I hate calling anyone out, it's not really about that, but I drove by Svengar's the other day, and I noticed they have like a lot of duct tape on their sign. I think they're covering up some old information, and I just wondered if there was any talk about like updating that sign, or if it's just gonna stay.
Which sign is this? I'm sorry.
It's Svengar's, on Mission Boulevard as you're coming into town, right on the right, it's kind of a big
Mission
sign.
and Alisal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mission Alisal, in the parking lot there, the one that faces.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 3 or 4 lines of like duct tape that are just probably covering up old information or something, I'm not really sure, but, anyway, it was just like silver duct tape, and I didn't know if there was a plan, for at all, or if it had been talked about, maybe that they were gonna be updating the sign soon, or, I don't know, that was just.
I haven't heard anything, but I also know there are several signs in that area that are really worn.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was hoping as part of an effort to look at signs that need a little bit of sprucing up, that we can include that in there.
Okay.
Sure. And this is something that literally just popped into my head. When I opened my business, the very largest expense were the signs because of adhering to the code, which I was happy to do because I'm really happy with my signs and it's part of my branding. But as a small business owner, especially people who are just starting out, so I don't know if there's some conversation in the future about a fund or, I mean, it's literally, I don't know how that even gets brought up, but I think about some businesses who might be struggling still from COVID, where, we want to make the city look nice, so maybe somewhere there's a
a matching fund or something
Yeah,
like
even
that.
just donations or grant, I don't,
Well,
I'm not
we're-
trying to get myself in writing grants or anything like that, but I think sometimes just the expense for people can be a lot, and I think it's not that, I think everybody wants their business represented clean and nice, and, all that does is benefit them, but it's an expense for sure.
Perhaps there's a way that next year there could be some kind of campaign and Chamber of Commerce could be involved, and there's a forgiveness period with application fees for signs, which would be a potential, and then this is the bad cop part of it, is that it might happen after some very proactive code enforcement work, so that we could really address as a community the large number of signs that are non-conforming. And, right now, it continues to be that struggle with the businesses that put up signs that don't go through the process
Yeah.
and then don't conform, so it almost makes it a little bit almost punitive for those who do come through the process and have, a fairly hefty fee. Now, if you're the Hadston House with these large signs, that's, it's the same price for them as it is for a small sign for a smaller business. And I don't have a solution to any of that, but it just seems like it might all go into a campaign together.
And then second to that, the signs that did get approved that, really don't comply just, because there was a board or somebody that approved it. And again, I don't really know the legalities of any of that, and I'm sure the city attorney would have something to say about that. But again, it would be, in my mind, if there was a less heavy-handed way to work with local businesses to try to get their signs updated, whether they were approved or not approved, and obviously there's probably different levels. Like someone who didn't have approval isn't going to have as much standing as someone who got approval, but is like, hey, like I don't want to have to change it. Someone said this was okay. So anyway, it's just an ongoing conversation, obviously, and I think we probably wouldn't even be talking about it if we weren't talking about updates to the general plan. But in my mind, I would personally be willing as a business owner to get together with the chamber or other business owners to come up with some ideas about how we can help fund new signs for people, I don't really know what that involves, but
Yeah.
Tracy Beard would probably have it.
I think it'd be excellent, and my comment too would be tonight regarding signs is the comment that Aaron Peterson brought up. You can just call it a pole sign. Well, maybe that it means that some of the code and guidelines need to be addressed when that is the case. So another thing for staff to consider.
Yeah, and obviously, I think, because I've thought about it with regard to a couple presentations last month, where everything in the heart of the TRC and every element of the sign, the size, the height, the lettering, they wanted an exception to the rules in every dimension to put up the sign, and I think those shouldn't get any help.
Right.
And I think where they are genuinely, maybe it's a best sign contest or something, where they're genuinely representing and advancing the traditional, historic Danish, Northern European elements is, what I would expect at a minimum, and anybody who'd participate in such a fund or whatever, that there's no waivers,
Yeah.
no exceptions.
And maybe even local sign people. Brian's not here to point out, but maybe they'd be willing to help
Yeah, absolutely. No,
reduce
they-
costs or
they've
something.
done- they
Yeah,
do
I mean,
that, yeah.
and they, a lot of them, I think a lot of times people end up getting sign designers from out of town or something, which is okay, but they may not always understand
Yeah.
kind of what those guidelines are, and then you have others who do, and anyway.
Yeah, which was, the good thing about tonight was the signs that were oversized, that had been recognized before they came here.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
appreciated that. It made, I think that our committee here tends to approve it when it's within the guidelines, but or within the footprint, that's allowed. But I keep looking at does it fit within the environment in which it's going to be placed. That's not the right wording, but I think you understand the context there. And we have not turned down a sign for that reason as a committee, but I see the day when that's going to happen. And I actually feel like maybe there's a case where I should have had it vote differently, because I'm not sure that the sign is going to fit in. So there's things to be clarified and defined further.
I think it's always a tough thing when you're talking about a business's branding, right? And
Very
it's
difficult.
Kind of like what he was saying about the flags. I think there's probably some limitations to saying, like, you're going to have to make this
Yeah.
Danish when your business has nothing to do with Denmark or whatever. My business, I was able to do that, but
Well, and I think
that
that's
was
what it goes to. You put your creative hat on and you did that. And it again goes to people that know the community.
Sure.
And it shows.
But also just to sort of, if you think about other municipalities, and we've gone, in my daily work, gone in front of them for signs, for very large signs, top of building signs. And if the ordinance says that it can't be bigger than the X box that you're given, you don't ask for, it's very rare to ask for an exception. And it's just something that I feel like, just because you're a small business or we're a small town, it doesn't really change the fact that the guideline and the code is written for a reason. And so to just ask for an exception just to ask is not really sufficient. It really, in my mind, it's like, that's why the code is there.
Again, that's what we talked about the last meeting.
Yeah,
They have
slippery
to-
slope.
The applicant ought to be able to provide a persuasive argument why an exception should be granted in that case. Otherwise, it should be very, very narrowly granted, particularly if it's in TRC.
Right.
Yeah.
Then,
Right.
then I really think that, we should really adhere to,
Yeah.
what they were intending 35 years ago or whenever it
Yeah.
was. Okay. Anything else, Xenia?
No, thank you.
Thank you all for your good work.
Thank you.
Advancing this. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Patrick, have a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's going to be nice.
I didn't
I
hit that
hope.
part.
How
Yeah.
long do you want
Went on a Lucas on the Well and